Dr. Cortex, we have not determined the cause of past failures.
Moron! This Bandicoot will be my general, and he will lead my Cortex commandos to world domination. This time I shall reign triumphant. We are closer than ever before. Quickly, into the vortex!
Dr. Cortex, the vortex is not ready. We have no idea what it could do.
Failure again. Capture him!
Uh-oh.
Prepare the female bandit.
It was only a matter of time before I eventually got to this series, wasn't it, people? Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Play Crash Bandicoot for the PlayStation. I'm not doing the N.Sane trilogy because I can't record PS4 yet, so let's get right into it with our first stage, Insanity Beach. Also, I can pause on the world map, which is weird. Every stage has at least 1 to 2 loading screens in it. I'm editing them out after part 1. Anyway, starting off, Crash is a fairly simple to control game. You only just move the D-pad, and you have 2 basic buttons. X is jump, square is spin. And you want to spin in order to destroy enemies and such, but we also want to destroy crates, because they'll help us get something at the end. Crash hits are lives, and the little Wumpa fruits that we're getting out of the crates, / boxes, are more or less your coins. Get 100 of them, you get an extra life. We want to destroy all the crates we can because it'll help get us something along the way. However, you also want to keep an eye out for boxes that have masks known as Aku Akus. Aku Akus are extra hits. Crash is not a very healthy Bandicoot because he only takes 1 hit without an Aku Aku. Right now I can take 2, a second Aku Aku will boost your health up to 3, and then a third one will do something a bit more special. Now, this is a bit odd for platformers, all things considered, because instead of doing what most platformers did back in the 90s, which was obviously left to right, they decided to go front to back, or yeah, I guess that's technically what it is. Which is one of the major reasons that this game in development was called Sonic's Ass Game by Naughty Dog. Collect 3 Aku Akus, and you are sent into an invincibility state, you run faster, and anything you touch gets destroyed. The only things that can still kill you, I believe, are bottomless pits and things that would be instant kill otherwise, even if you had Aku Akus. We want to, well, first off, we have a split patch. We want to head left first, though some can also recommend going right overall, because there's extra boxes that way we want to grab. But yeah, this game in development was called Sonic's Ass Game by like the 10 people I think that were on the dev team at Naughty Dog at the time, for 2 primary reasons. One, Sonic was the most prominent non-human figure in the platforming genre at the time, and 2, because due to the forward-to-back level design idea, we're constantly looking at Crash's ass. Although, interesting little fact about Crash himself, he actually has unique shaders on him to make him stand out from the rest of the visuals in this game, and that's really cool. Mind you, I have to say for PlayStation, this game looks gorgeous. And that's the last box in the stage, and hitting the level end warp will take us to the tally screen. If you collect every box in the stage without dying, you are given a gem. Gems not only allow you to save, but getting them is required to get the 100% ending, which I am doing. There are 2 ways to save your progress in Crash 1. Password, which I think is not in the Japanese version at all, and obviously saving with the memory card. However, you can only save after either getting a gem or through a certain something we'll be seeing in the second stage onwards. Now, I mentioned that you have to get through the stage without dying to get the gem. While this game design issue that's really just not a very good idea looking back was fixed in the N.Sane trilogy, in Crash 1, the only boxes that save where you are in the level and how much you've done is the checkpoint boxes. However, checkpoint boxes do not save how many boxes you've broken. So in the case where, say, you're at the final checkpoint in the stage and you die there, all the other boxes you've broken are restored. However, at the same time, it doesn't matter because if you die along the way to getting a box, to getting a gem rather, it doesn't give you the gem even if you got every box. It'll go I forget what it exactly says. It says it's like, great, but you died, so try again, or something along those lines. I forget. It's been a while since I did that in particular. You see that little green thing on screen there? That is our indication that we actually cannot get all the boxes in this level, thus not get the gem. Why? Crash, in the Crash series, there's two particular kinds of gems. Clear gems, which is like the one we got in the first stage, and colored gems. Colored gems allow you to access other paths, which lead to other boxes, allowing you to get other gems. Basically, it's a way of saying, hey, you have to replay some stages, so good luck. Also, be careful TNT boxes, because their explosion will kill you. Well, hurt you, but killing is the more often circumstance. Now, if you've been paying attention to this level, even though I haven't been mentioning it, we've been grabbing what are basically very similar looking things to our extra lives, only they're of Tana, the female Bandicoot that Cortex currently has kidnapped over in his castle. Getting the third one will load you into a bonus round. What these are is mostly just an opportunity to get extra Wumpa food and extra lives. However, at the end, there is another level exit warp, which will take you to the save screen. This is the only other way you can save in the game aside from getting a gem or technically one other kind of item. In the N.Sane trilogy, they changed the way that these work. They're no longer the save stations. You can save on the world map at any time. However, the Tana bonus stages, as well as the other two types of bonus stages, were required to get every box, so you need to be a bit smarter with your playstyle there. I should note from this save on, all future saves will be edited out, as with the loading screen starting next part, so there's going to be a lot of really quick transitions from one thing to another. Now, the N.Sane trilogy, once again, did a really good thing with the bonus stages by, even though they're required to get all the boxes, you can retry them. Here in the original Crash 1, if you fail a bonus stage, you're screwed, more or less, because you can't retry it until I think you either exit the stage and go back in, or in some cases, I think you might have to restart the game. However, in the N.Sane trilogy, they added a little gate right next to wherever you would find a third of any given token type, allowing you to, if you say fail, go right back into the warp and try again. Also, I should note, you'll quite often be hearing little musical cuts in the world map. The reason for that is every level was recorded separately in terms of this LP. Mostly just because I didn't want to do all the stages in a row in one sitting. You know what I mean? Because that can get kind of stressful in Crash 1's case. Anyway, in terms of my experience with Crash 1, I know I haven't been talking too much about the previous few stages, but Crash 1 is a fairly vanilla platformer, all things considered. 2 is where it starts to get really interesting for me. Crash 1's actually where I started the series, and for the most part where I stayed growing up, because out of the original PlayStation trilogy at least, it's the only one my brother owned, and thus I was able to play it. We rented 2 a lot from the Blockbuster about 12 minutes away from us, or that was about 12 minutes away from us, rather. And we rented Crash 3, like, 3 times. But other than this, most of my experience in Crash is both with Crash 1 and Wrath of Cortex on my brother's Xbox, which I have some fond memories of, but I can see why a lot of people are not very fond of that game. Now, despite the fact that we got the gem in the first level, a lot of the levels on the first island of the world map are going to be ones we have to revisit later on, because a good amount of them require a colored gem, like the previous stage did, in order to get all the boxes. So for the most part, unless you're going for extra lives, you can ignore a lot of the boxes in these stages. Also, I hate this enemy type. They start moving towards you once you're on their platform, and you have to jump on them in order to actually defeat them like that. And that's surprisingly tricky to do. The timing has always been pretty tight for me. Mind you, hitboxes and timing are something that N.Sane Trilogy could screw over for some people, even though I honestly overall prefer all the changes that N.Sane Trilogy brought to the trilogy, particularly in Crash 1's case, because Crash 1... it's a good game, but if you're going for 100%, I honestly just recommend avoiding it otherwise, because 100% in Crash 1 is not very fun due to some of the horse shit, for lack of a better term, that can be pulled in it later on. Most potentially the you can't die rule, which, God, I hate that. Now, even though I do it fairly often early on here, later on in the Tana bonus stages, I just prioritize getting to the end so I can get that save point in it. My reasoning for that is, since these boxes don't count for the tally, I don't really need them. Also, you should be captured in Cortex's island, Tana. What the hell are you doing over here? N.Sane Trilogy actually would change that, so that she somehow escapes and then immediately gets kidnapped again. I don't get why, but it's there. I do find it one addition that N.Sane Trilogy added really needless but really funny. Whenever you're on the box tally screen, the more boxes he missed, the more they start kicking Crash's ass. Like by 30, he's on the floor cowering. You actually get a trophy for that too. Either way, welcome to Boulders, which is the first of the opposite kind of camera angle stages. Whenever you're in these in the trilogy, particularly, actually no, it's in all three of the original PlayStation games, you're running from a death plane, because that boulder is instant kill no matter how many Akus you have. And this looks like it could be annoying, but honestly, the camera in this kind of stage, at least, gives you enough room to see what's coming ahead of you that it doesn't really matter. Unless you had, say, the running shoes from Crash 3, in which case, you better memorize the stage layouts. Which is a bit of an inconsistency in the original PlayStation Trilogy's case. Because even though you don't have to do it too much in Crash 1, I can only count maybe 2, maybe 3 occurrences of you having to backtrack in Crash 1 to get boxes. The camera, when you're backtracking through split paths, like say back in Insanity Beach even, doesn't pull back far enough for you to be able to see what's coming ahead of you, and that is to the game's detriment because it can cause a lot of stupid deaths. Whenever I get to Crash 2, you'll see that. Also, one thing I should apologize for, particularly here in Crash 1's case, I'm going to be bringing up the N.Sane Trilogy a lot due to the changes it brought to the table. And I apologize for that, but that is, since that's very recent and relevant in my mind, I'm going to be doing that. Plus, it's just the best way to play Crash 1. Either way, time for one of my least favorite levels in the game, Upstream. The way Crash 1 handles its levels is that there's generally 2 of any given gimmick idea. Gimmick idea, that's redundant. Theme, there we go. And the Upstream ones have always been some of the most annoying to me because they have these very particular Venus flytrap platforms you have to step on. I think we're coming up on the first one now. The red ones will activate whenever you stand on them. The purple ones will activate automatically. I think it's based off a global cycle within the level. And if I recall, even with Akus, I believe they're instant death. I say I believe because sometimes I forget if I have an Aku or not. You might be saying, Kyle, how can you be that stupid that he's right next to you? Crash 1 in particular is a game I very easily developed a sort of tunnel vision with. Because very often, I'm not looking at where Crash is. I'm looking at what's ahead of me to be able to judge my jumps properly. And because of that, I'm not paying as much attention to where I am and what I'm looking like in terms of status as I should be. And that can be to my detriment. Yeah, look, there he goes. That confirms it, actually, at least with the red ones. But I swear that's also not consistent. I swear I've also been able to survive them sometimes. Also, whenever I die, I am generally going to be jump cutting to where I died at, a few exceptions notwithstanding, where I die, like, right next to a checkpoint box. There's also going to be a certain stipulation for when we do the revisits to levels we have to revisit, but I'll get to that when we get to that. By the way, this is only coming to mind because I love this track right now in particular. But Crash 1's soundtrack is really good. It's probably the weakest out of the original trilogy, but mostly because it generally sticks to that kind of bouncy island theme that you hear for a lot of like tropical stuff. But it's still damn good stuff. My favorite song, though, is probably the title theme because that's been in my head since I was a kid, and it's never really left. Something about that xylophone, man. At least I think it's a xylophone. If I recall, actually, the person who did the soundtracks for the trilogy put the pre-system instrumentation versions on, I think, SoundCloud, I think? So you can find, like, the completely uncompressed versions on the internet, and they really sound good. Crash 2's in particular. Now, we got all the boxes along the way that we could. However, since there's not only an orange gem there, we can't complete this level entirely. Plus, since we died, we don't even get the tally screen. That's the tally screen for if you die, of course. I believe N.Sane Trilogy gives you an almost perfect screen where it says, you got all the boxes, but you died. Either way, it's time for our first boss, Papu Papu. Fun little fact, first off, in the Japanese version, this guy has 2 extra hit points, which the N.Sane trilogy keeps, and his swinging around in circles gets faster with every single hit. Basic strategy for this fight, stand on his chair, jump on him, jump back off because he has invincibility frames. He is a joke, really, in the original version. Gotta say, though, love the model. Even though I don't think there's many textures on a lot of the models in this game, they all look pretty good all the same because they're pretty well constructed. Either way, with that, I'm going to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 2, we'll be heading on into Rolling Stones and seeing what we can see in that stage onwards. See you guys then.